Sorry, I finished all my fruit.
Oh, okay.
Now that that's been caught in the recording.
Yes.
Sorry, gentlemen.
Well, I think that, well, first of all, welcome everyone to today's session. And it's a smaller group, so I think that we can have some interaction. But we would ask you, if you have any questions, comments, to put them in the chat function of Zoom here. And that will be excellent. Thing I wanted to recognize today is that we are in Treaty 4 territory, at least we are here in Regina, and the homeland of many different groups, including the Sioux, the Coda, Lakota, Nakota, as well as the Cree, and homeland of the Métis, as well as our other nations that are around us. And the fact that we're all treaty people, and treaty is important to every single one of us. And we take that to heart here at the Regina Chamber. So I wanted to introduce you to Deanna Belize. Is it Belize? Did I get it right?
Belle Isle.
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
And Matthew Delzell or Zeal? Zell? Okay.
It's Delzell.
We want to thank you so much for being part of this here today. And we really appreciate you taking some time out to provide some information to people. And I know that there's a lot of value in this, so I'll turn it right over to you. Who wants to start first?
I'll start.
Please go ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So yes, it's our pleasure to be here today to bring you this session, and thank you to the Chamber for hosting us. We were just going to launch right in here. So we work for the Department of Western Economic Diversification Canada, and we have an open call for proposals to apply for funding under the Canada Community Revitalization Fund. So this opening slide says June 2021, because the date that we launched our program was on June 23rd. And some of you may have received an email from us if you were on our list from prior programs. But it's been a little while since we've done an infrastructure one. Our last one was back when we celebrated Canada's 150th. So it's been a little while, but here we are again. The deck might use the acronym CCRF. I'll try not to use that while we're speaking, because it's the Community Revitalization Fund, because I don't want to torture you with yet another acronym. So this slide shows the regional development agencies across Canada. There are 6 of us currently, and WD is the agency that delivers programming, often national programming, and sometimes Western programming for the Government of Canada. So the other ones, as you can see there, we have one for the North. There are 2 in Ontario, one for Quebec, and one for Atlantic Canada, pardon me. Some of the text is cut off in there, but that's okay. You get the idea. We just wanted to show that we are geographically about 1/3 of, we cover 1/3 of Canada with our geographic area. What we do at WD is what our name says, is we promote the development and diversification of the economy in Western Canada. So we're a convener. And what that means is, I thought it might be best to bring you an example of when we convene things. We bring together stakeholders, for example, the engagements that we did a couple summers ago to investigate options for the water strategy for Saskatchewan. So WD was really involved in that. We are a co-investor, such as the Community Revitalization Fund, or something that might be of interest to some of you here, the Regional Air Transportation Initiative, where airports can apply for funding from WD. And these programs are all in response to the hardships of COVID-19. So that's why there's there's that program. There's a lot of other programs on our website as well. Pathfinder, this is for infrastructure ones. Normally, there are programs at Infrastructure Canada that the province and the municipalities can apply to. And more recently, one of them is actually a direct program with applicants. So, so we try to pathfind people if we ourselves don't have a program that can provide support. And of course, we are a champion, a big, proud champion of Saskatchewan, because that's the region that Matthew and I serve, or the province. And we advocate for things going on here in Saskatchewan at every opportunity. A recent example was the Regina Air Traffic Control Tower. Okay.
Yay.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you.
Well, it's just a small part, but we make sure that we're really loud. So the overview of this particular fund nationally, so all of those 6 RDAs have this fund to deliver, and nationally it's 500 million. In the West, because I know you're going to ask me that, our allocation is 152 million, and that is over 2 of our government fiscal years. So that's different from a municipal year, but it is 2 construction seasons is really what we aimed for there, so that we would have what's left of this year and then all of next summer, and wrap up the program at the end of March 2023. And the objectives, we want to, we can build new community infrastructure, and more likely we're going to revitalize your existing assets. And that is so that we can bring people back. We want them back to all our public spaces safely, and we want to create jobs and stimulate our local economies and get the economy back to recovery. So I'm going to turn the presentation over to Matthew now. He is our team leader for the Community Revitalization Fund in Saskatchewan. So he's been immersed in all of the details that we will show you on the next slides. Over to you, Matthew.
Thanks, Deanne. And it's great to be joined by everybody here to find out some more information about the Community Revitalization Fund. So I think the key question you're going to have, of course, is who is eligible. This is a program that's focused at not-for-profit organizations, so non-profit, not-for-profit entities. So those include things like not-for-profit organizations and charities. Obviously, the big focus is at the municipal and regional level. So that's municipal and regional governments, RMs, and other bodies that provide infrastructure services to communities, so at the local level. And also Indigenous-led organizations. So that includes individual First Nations, represented by the Chiefs and Council, tribal councils, Métis locals, Métis settlements, Indigenous economic development organizations are all also eligible to apply, as well as any not-for-profit organization that is an Indigenous organization. One thing to point out also on the municipal piece is hamlets are also eligible to apply. They need to apply through their RM. If they're what they call an unorganized, I believe, right? Hamlet. Doesn't mean that is not a personal judgment. It's just the term that's used. Individuals, so individual people, businesses, and provinces and territorial governments are not eligible under this program. So the objectives of the program are primarily to provide ability to adapt and expand community spaces and assets so they can be safely used in accordance with public health guidelines from COVID, and basically attract our people back into our public common spaces. So looking at building and improving community infrastructure that encourages Canadians to re-engage and explore the communities and regions. So to get out of our houses, to go out into those community spaces and enjoy them in a safe way. Oops. So the priorities. So there are four main priority areas of projects. And those are initiatives or projects that revitalize downtowns and main streets, so the centers, the community centers, that reinvent outdoor spaces, that create green infrastructure and increase accessibility to those spaces for people who have disabilities, people who are marginalized, people who are underrepresented. Further consideration and prioritization are going to be given to a host of, there's another list. These are all available on our website, by the way, as well. Big focus are on projects that are shovel ready. What does that mean? That means construction can start as soon as funding is approved, or it can also be projects that are already underway. Again, this initiative is only for 2 years. So March 31st, 2023 is when all the work needs to be done. So that is 2 construction seasons effectively for Saskatchewan. We want to see other partners brought in if possible to leverage project funding. Because of the compressed time frame, we are looking at projects that are completed quickly. So there may not be necessarily very large projects in terms of scope or particularly in terms of time to completion. But their program will be the benefit will be shared broadly. And to help communities, as I said, rebuild and rebound. So to get people back into our community spaces. We also need to see some measurable direct and indirect socioeconomic benefits. And those are go into more detail in the application. And we encourage participation, as I said, of underrepresented groups to be able to be part of this. That includes a focus for rural and remote communities. The deadline for the application is actually on the website officially July 23rd. We're suggesting encouraging everyone to get in July 22nd, because the last day of a intake period, if you run into a problem, that's when we can help you. Now, that is, the portal will remain open. So this is what we have what's called the priority intake period. And that runs to July 23rd. And that's at that point, we will start looking at evaluating projects and we'll start looking at funding those projects. We will entertain other applications after that date. However, it's going to be limited by how many funds we still have free to commit to additional projects. Number of examples, I won't read them all. But again, the focus is on revitalizing our community hearts, looking at improving accessibility, looking at opportunities to do more with outside, looking at community cultural centers, cultural resources such as museums, libraries, looking at those sorts of opportunities that will benefit the public and hopefully benefit and underpin and be an anchor for the local economy in the area. So what's covered? So eligible costs include the costs related with construction, things like materials, fees, contractor fees. There is a more detailed list in our application guide. The costs that are eligible can be paid, will be paid on a retroactive basis. We will accept costs as early as April 19th, 2021. So that's budget day this year. So that means if your project's already underway, you can claim costs incurred from April 19th on. What's ineligible? This includes maintenance and operational activities that you would be basically doing anyways with a project, so on a recurring or annual basis. Motorized vehicles. So now that's mostly things like trucks. If you want to look at Zamboni for the new rink, talk to us. The purchase of a building and or land. So if you're doing work with a building, you have to already own the building. You have to have rights to make changes to the building, and you also have to own the land. So you can't use this fund to buy buildings or buy land. So the terms of this are, we'll base this on the terms based on the minimum amounts required to do the project. Municipal, regional governments, non-Indigenous organizations, non-Indigenous not-for-profit groups, we will cover up to 75% of the total eligible costs of the project. And for Indigenous groups, we will cover up to 100% of the funding. The maximum amount of funding that can be requested is $750,000. We are targeted because we want to make sure we can get as many projects through as we can with the funds we have. We're looking with a priority lens at projects around the $500,000 range or less. You can certainly ask for more, but that is what we're going to be looking at. All of these contributions are non-repayable, which means, just what that says, it is a direct contribution to the project. There are stipulations on the agreement, so it's not a grant, which is, of course, no strings attached. There are strings in terms of eligibility and reporting requirements, but these are non-repayable contributions. So how to apply? Easiest way is go to the WD website, wd-deo.gc.ca. And actually it's on our homepage right now on part of the crawl and also in the frequently requested list that's on the right-hand side of the webpage. And encourage you to consult the applicant guide first, complete and submit the online application form, and it is online. We are relying on an online application process. You need to have a Government of Canada key, a GC key, in order to access that. And the ability, what that allows secure access, and so that you can actually work on the application, save it, come back to it. So it's not a one, not you just have to, you don't have to sit down and get it all done in one sitting. As mentioned, there's a one-time scheduled intake focused on projects ready to proceed. Assessment of those will begin on July 23rd. So that is our priority window. So that's when we strongly encourage people to get their applications in, is by July 23rd. And again, as I mentioned, if there's any funding available after that we haven't already committed to those other projects that have already come in that first intake, we'll continue to accept those on a continuous basis over the next 2 years. Obviously, knowing the challenge being that the projects still have to be done by March 31st, 2023. You're also allowed to submit more than one application, but you do need to prioritize them. So if you are looking at more than one project, you can submit as many as you want, but we want to know that this is your top priority, and on down from there. Again, the applicant toolkit, there is the web page. That includes the core piece of information, the cards, the program guidelines, the application guide, and a link to the application form. And if you have any questions, we have a call center that we have a call line that we have operating. So you can give us a call or send us an email, and you can also email Deanne directly as well. And of course, you can always follow us on social media to see updates. So thank you very much. And Deanne and I are happy to take questions.
Okay, I have a few in the chat line and then a few others. First one is, do we need to apply through the City of Regina like the previous grant? No.
I can take that one. No, you do not. So that was when we were delivering infrastructure programs for the Government of Canada, and we don't do that anymore. So this is a direct application to us. You just go, as Matthew explained, online, get an application form. Your first step is to get that secure Government of Canada key, which is distinct to your organization. I'll be answering the second question now. Sorry, and you keep it your username and your password all confidential, and that allows you to apply to our program directly.
I should also point out that the GC key is actually to an individual. So it doesn't matter in terms of it has to be an organization email, but it is linked to an individual. So if you have a GC key in the past that was maybe used by somebody else and they've since moved on, you can't use that key as well because it's actually tied to your email address because it does require a regular validation. Have found that there's some challenge if your email is for SaskTel in terms of getting the daily two-factor authentication done. But again, if you run into that trouble, let us know.
And that's a pretty important part of it is having the key.
Yeah.
I know from other things that we've done, it's get the key, get the key, get the key, and keep the key. Okay, the other one question we've talked about, which is getting the key. And Jeanette's sending out the email or the link to everyone. So I know this is an unfair question, but when you say shovel ready, what does that actually mean? Like how far along in the process do we need to get? Like is a budget with some definition behind it good enough, or do you need drawings, or and to what level?
Mm-hmm. I'll start off here, if you don't mind, Matthew, because I have to just make sure that there's no misunderstanding about what we call our start date and the retroactivity back to April 19th. So you have to have a distinct project, and you really shouldn't have started the phase that you're going to request funding from us for. So you could have started some big project over here, but now there's this component, that's the component you're going to apply to us for. Because we abide by the rule that you have to need our funding before we can give you funding. So if you've already started the project and you like it does show that perhaps you didn't really need our funding. So I ask that you compartmentalize your project and indicate when you are going to start it, or indicate though that you have some costs that could go back to April 19th and you'd like us to go back to that retroactive date. If that's clearer, I hope it is. So the project itself can't be a standalone architectural drawing. We won't pay for that. It can't be a standalone environmental assessment. We can't do that either because it's not showing us that you're totally ready. You should have those things ready. You should have your permits in place, perhaps drawings, perhaps not signed, but ability to get them stamped really quickly. And of course, I know if there are municipal governments online, well, they usually issue their own permits. So of course, permits is not an impediment to getting going, but if they're not for-profit organizations, it is a consideration. So we want at least a doable time frame to have all that in place so that you can start and finish your project, the construction, because we need an asset when we're done, by March 31st, 2023. So those are the considerations. You can't say, well, I have a 4-year project and I would like the first 2 years to do all of my engagement and consulting with the public on what they want to see and that kind of, no, we can't do that. We want you already beyond that stage. So anything else to add, Matthew?
No, I think you covered it. Yeah, just again, is that, you're ready to go. So whatever you need to be ready to go. And that's part of the application process, and that'd be part of our assessment as well. How far along you are and are you ready to proceed? And also matching funding. If there is looking at leveraging funding, we need to know that you have that in place, and it has to be cash basis. It can't be in kind.
Yeah, that's that 25%. You have to get, if you don't have it yourself, you have to show us where you're going to get it.
Okay, and then the Indigenous groups, it's 100%, right?
Yes.
Right. Okay, dumb question, sorry. I just have to ask the dumb questions. Is there like a specific sort of general kind of allocation, Regina, Saskatoon, other types of areas, or is it just open projects come in, and it doesn't matter, they all could be in PA, let's say.
Mhm. Yes, well, yeah, and that's the big question, because we don't know who's going to apply and from where, right? So that's I'm hoping to see a really good distribution around the whole province. But we'll have to see how it goes. But typically in Saskatchewan, infrastructure programs we try to treat our rural and remote communities equally and fairly to the big cities, because we know that they don't necessarily have the same capacity to pull all this stuff together. But they do, there has to be applications. We're also cognizant of the same concern for the North. But no, there's no real allocation. We're looking for strong projects that are ready to go. Yeah.
Ready to go, strong projects. Okay, let me run a sort of scenario by you. I'm waiting for, well, we got a question here. Do renovations to a building need to be in an owned, or can they be in a lease situation?
That's Matthew's question.
Matthew, go ahead.
Ideally, the building should be owned. Or it has to be an extremely long-term lease. I think it's the answer to that one. Then land, you have to have a long-term. If it's on land that you lease, you have to have a long-term lease on it, and permission, obviously, to do the work.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me run a scenario by you. I don't want to be too cagey about it. I've been working with a group that has a project, and we have not identified where the funding for the project was going to come from, but it's an Indigenous organization that would have a significant impact in the community, that ties back to what we've all been hearing over the last 3 weeks or so, 751 and things like that. Is that a type of project? I assume it would be of significant interest, but does that make sense, or that group might want to try and hurry and get something in?
Yeah, well, it makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I thought so. I just.
Yeah. Yes.
It will still have to be one of the types of projects that we've defined, like an actual.
There needs to be an asset.
Tangible. Yeah. Like perhaps the markers, perhaps a fence around. Some sort of construction should take place, because this is an infrastructure program. But you can, whatever you might need that surrounds that end product could be considered as well. So in the same way as they said, whatever you have to get done to get your project going and finished by March 23rd, that can be included. But as standalone studies or engagements, that we can't do that. So that rule applies across our whole program.
Okay, I'll leave it there because I don't want to go off on a tangent, and I'm still looking at any more questions from anybody. I'll go back to my pages and see if I have some more. So preference for 500K or less, but you'll consider in between 5 and 750 is what I heard. Is that?
You will, if you're 500K or less, you will have a stronger sort of priority than if you ask for big. And in my experience, because I think this might be my 3rd or 4th infrastructure program, or in Saskatchewan, we can get a lot done for $500,000. So, I'm expecting, based on past experience, a lot of smaller projects, and that's really good. You get the priority for being a smaller project. You're not penalized for being too small. We're looking forward to that. But yeah, up to 500,000. That's our Western standard. So you can see how in Alberta and BC they have lots of projects likely at that range. But I'm not expecting too many in Saskatchewan, unless they're from a city.
Okay, is this funding available for smaller charities, or is it intended more for cities and major projects? I think you kind of sort of answered that, but
Charities are eligible, but they have to be building a community space. Don't know what more to say about that. Yes.
And they need to be a registered charity. Same as if it's ever a non-profit or not-for-profit, they still need to be incorporated somehow, or registered so that they have an official standing.
okay, so let's say, for the sake of argument, not argument, just let's say that I had this great idea and I'm working with the chamber, and the chamber wants to do some real creative thing, whatever that might be. Is it okay if I phone you and say, here's kind of the idea? And not that I'm asking you to approve it or anything, but just to see if it kind of fits the project or not, or the parameters or not? Is that acceptable or unacceptable? Or fill out the application and we'll let you know.
Want me to answer that one?
You sure?
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll probably, I mean, it's not really our place to tell you one way or the other, whether you fund it, don't fund it. We can tell you about, if if you have a component you're not sure, are you crossing an eligibility rule or something like that? Definitely phone us. You can phone us, but really, we can't sort of tell you over the phone just because we don't have the background to say, yeah, great, send her in, we'll fund it. But certainly if you have an idea and you're just not quite sure of the fit, you can call. I mean, we'll just sort of say, we will point you back to that list of on our website of sort of suggestions and where the priorities are. I'd never say no, you can't call us because we are a public, we're the government of Canada and you should be able to call us. But at the same time, we can tell you something along the lines of, that's aligned, or maybe that's not as well as aligned as perhaps some other projects might be.
Okay.
And so in that case, we use language like, we want you to think about the spirit and intent of this program, which is to build welcoming community spaces somehow, make them accessible somehow. They can be outdoor or indoor, but we want more gathering space at the end of the day. And so that's the spirit of the program, and why we have 2 slides on objectives that we presented to you. And so, if you think about something like a water treatment plant, there's big need for those, and wastewater treatment plants and so on, but there's no way you can make that into a community space. So, so then we would find you over to Infrastructure Canada. That's not what this program is.
Water treatment plant referendums and the like.
Yes.
I don't see any more questions coming in. I really want to thank you guys, because I know that you're wonderful to actually work with. We have a relationship, and it's an important relationship to us. And I would say it's an important relationship for our community, our province, and our country, as we try to get things done. And that's the big thing that I've heard about what you're saying. We want to try and get things done. Enough of the just talking. Let's get some move in trying to get things done. So with that, I want to thank you both very much for being part of this, and everyone else that's here on the call. And last chance for questions. Seeing none, I'll play you out. Have a great Regina Day.
Thanks.
Last words from either one of you? Oh, I have to do the draw.
Oh, there's a draw.
Okay. What's the number?
1 to 23.
1 to 23, Deanna.
Oh, I like 19.
19. Come on down. You're the next contestant on the price. Oh, sorry.
Wrong show. That would be Lindsay DeRochers from Regina Downtown.
Right on, Lindsay. We'll get it to you. Okay, everyone, have a great day. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.